Hello and welcome to Common Royalty. It's our show about ordinary people doing some extraordinary things here in northern Michigan. I'm Bill Freilich.
And I am Jessica Mason Freilich. I am your royalty.
And that makes me the commoner on the show. And Jessica is with us as a brand new title holder with a brand new name to add to your resume. You are now Mrs. Michigan.
That's right.
For 2017. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. As our full viewership will remember, I was Mrs. Traverse City, and then I competed for Mrs. Michigan, and I won.
That was just this year, though. I mean, we go back to last year when we started the program,
right.
And you started as Ms. Michigan State, and of course we got married, and now you are moving on and moving up in the world.
Moving on up, that's right.
This was an actual competition. We want to take a few minutes to really tell people about the new title, what it means, introduce people to not only the show again, because it's been quite a few months since we've really talked about what the show is all about, but also what the title is about and what it means and how you can really get your feet wet and help out in northern Michigan. But let's go back just a step, if we could, to the Mrs. Michigan pageant. This was a competition held in the Grand Rapids area just a couple weeks ago. And
that's right.
This was something you've been working for, and obviously this is an earned title, so congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. You compete representing your city, so I wasn't just Jessica on stage, I was Mrs. Traverse City, and so to trade in my city for my state title was a huge honor, and this is a really big deal for me. I'm really excited.
And it leads to new and exciting things for you as well. The winner of Mrs. Michigan advances to the next round.
I'm trying to get to Mrs. America. Just like Miss America, last year, for viewers, you'll remember that I competed for Ms. America. Ms. is just a different division that just means over the age of 26, any marital status. Mrs. is limited to married women, so I will be competing for Mrs. America. Should I win that one, then I would go on to Mrs. World.
Well, tell us why you compete, because really that's part of why we do this show and really want to get the word out about all the good things going on in the community.
Thanks. Yeah, everybody has a different reason for competing, and I started about 10 years ago in 2006 when I saw the Mrs. America pageant on TV, and that's where I wanted to get. I wanted to get to this competition that I will now be competing at in August. And when I first competed, it was to better myself, and I really was chasing the crown. I really wanted the validation of working for something, crossing that finish line, and it was very much about attaining the crown, attaining the title. As I've gotten older and as I have become more involved in my community and as our family has grown, it has really changed what it has meant to me personally. So I really want to talk about why I'm competing right now and why I got into it. And if the viewers remember, when I was Ms. Michigan State last year, it was because I was new to Michigan. I moved here for that guy, and I didn't know anyone, and I didn't know where to start. So I started cleaning out cages at Cherryland Humane Society. I started volunteering my time. And I started getting greedy with my volunteer work. I wanted to do more and have more of an impact. And I wanted to have some leverage in my volunteerism. I wanted to see more money raised. I wanted to see more volunteers brought in. And so a way to do that was to become a public figure. And so I got involved with the Ms. system, and I realized that when you do the same thing that you were doing before, but you do it with a crown on your head, that the difference is just night and day, especially with kids, and that's kind of my passion is furry little creatures and children. And when you're talking to kids and you have a crown on your head, their eyes are wide and they're listening, and your words resonate, and they'll repeat them back to you when they see you on the street months later. Yeah. So you become their internal voice because your words have credibility. And with adults, the title lends me credibility because I have had to work towards my own goal. I've had to persevere. I've had to, all the things that this means. I say that it's like getting a degree. It's something that goes after my name that gives me credibility. And so when I started working as a title holder within my community and I started gaining this momentum, I was ready to take on the role that I was preparing for, and that was Ms. America, because that's what you train for. You train for your city, then your state, then your country, and you want to keep advancing. And at the Ms. America pageant, I missed it by that much. I came in as first runner-up. which is an incredibly honorable position, but it's not taking the baton and it's not moving forward to the next round. And I was just a freight train, just ready to keep going.
Right.
And
I can vouch for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was training just all the time. Not just physical fitness, and of course that's a part of it, but working on myself, working on becoming an expert on me. People don't realize that when you compete in a pageant, you have to know what you believe and why, what you want to do about it, and how.
Because you get asked not only at competition, but all the time.
All the time.
On the street.
In crown and out. That people want to know why you're doing what you're doing. The questions that you get asked are far more grilling than the interview at the competition, and that's pretty grilling. But you're constantly evolving as a person and polishing. And so when we got married, and then I got first runner-up at Ms. America, I was already raring to go. And so we had already talked about me competing in the Mrs. pageant. So be first of the year, I took on the title of Mrs. Traverse City, and then we began preparing for Mrs. Michigan. And it was scary how much I wanted it, because you can't control the outcome at pageants. It's not like running a race. It's not this objective. You cross the finish line first, and so you win. It's out of your hands. It's based on the opinion of a few strangers in a room, based on a few moments of your life, and it's very subjective. We have an expression: different day, different judge, different queen. And I got sick the weekend of competition. Really sick. And the night before finals, I was in bed with a fever and all snivelly, and I said, I can't do this because I don't feel strong enough to not win. And you have to be able to go into a competition and put forth your best effort and have that be enough. That you can't let the outcome that's out of your hands determine how you feel about how you did. And I just didn't feel up to it. But I woke up fresh as a daisy without a voice the next day.
And you charged ahead.
And I charged ahead because I felt I could take the results, that I could leave it all on the stage. And just as I say to my dancers, who you'll meet next episode, that you have to be able to walk off the stage with your head high, knowing that you left it all out there, that you put your best effort out there. And I did.
And here you are.
Here I am.
Look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
I want to go back to something you said a minute ago, a couple things that you said.
I said a lot there.
I know.
Sorry about that.
Really, it's been 7 minutes. I haven't gotten a word in edgewise, which is normal.
Like marriage.
So one of the things you talked about was the crown catching the attention of the kids. And really, that was, it's always evident to me when we're out and about, but that night when you won, we went out for dinner afterwards, and you got in Crown, you got your burger and fries, of course, because that's what you do after the pageant. But these two little girls and their dad were at a table, and one of them just rushed up to you and almost latched onto you, and they wanted pictures. And that was a prime example of that. But also, you did about 50 appearances last year as Ms. Michigan State. Between more than that?
I hit 100, babe.
Well, that's about 50.
It's about.
I mean,
Like
give
we've
or
been
take.
married
Math
about
is,
50 years.
Yeah, math is not my strong suit. Was it really 100?
I hit 100. I hit 100 early December, mid-swing shift.
Man. See, it's all a blur.
It was,
but
because we did so many. Sometimes we would do 3 to 5 in a day. We
had some record-setting days. That's
we
for
did.
sure. But you're on track for at least 50 this year. We're only in May right now, but
50 by August.
So you're doing really well. The last 10 days we've had 4 or 5.
We're
so you're moving along. My point in all that was not the math, which you want to correct me on, or to be corrected. I did not want that to happen.
And yet,
however, what I wanted to get across, if you'll give me a minute, was the opportunity you have to get your message out. A lot of what you've volunteered at and shown up for, aside from the parades and the fun stuff, which you did a lot of, were the school visits, talking about your platform, which I want to get into as well, and really to have hundreds of eyes, focused on you and willing to pay attention, gives you a chance to talk about what you're passionate about. Right. And you proved that the crown does matter, and that it is a microphone that especially the kids will listen to. So tell us about your platform, because it carries over from last year into what you want to talk about this year.
Right, and a platform, for those who don't know, is like your thesis statement as a queen. It's the message that is your driving force. It influences all the appearances that you take, the words that come out of your mouth the most. And my platform obviously is ongoing because it's the mission statement for who I am as a person. So, last title, this title, should I win Mrs. America? And when I hang up my crown and I go back to regular human, it's going to influence the rest of my life. And my platform is compassion over reaction. And that's teaching kids what compassion is, and putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, seeing a situation from the perspective of others before responding. That we as a society, as a culture, have become so reactionary. And a lot of that is because of our digital format of communication, texting, Facebook, Twitter, that it all it fires off
angry responses to everything.
And you interpret it with however you read that. It's one tiny little form of communication, and because of that, that's how we're now responding to each other in person. That everything has become so knee-jerk. That we're just back and forth. And how this translates into schools is the increase in bullying. And bullying is just a bad choice that's repeated.
It's really become a negative term for obvious reasons, but it kind of latches on to a kid with a label.
Right, and that is the problem that I'm trying to combat. That bullying is a rampant problem right now, and I am trying to get at that, systemically, where it's starting when a kid becomes a bully. Because as soon as they become that bully, as soon as they're labeled as a bully, that label's now internalized, and they really get pigeonholed and stuck in that behavior. And the truth is that we've all made bad choices. We've all been unkind, intentionally or unintentionally. But if kids can't recognize those behaviors as they are making that choice, then they're going to repeat them. And so getting into the schools and helping kids recognize bullying behaviors in themselves helps them choose differently in the situation. And I teach them skills on how to stop bullying when it's coming towards them.
Another half of that, which I'm particularly fond of, I think, is getting kids to realize where those behaviors come from, not just in themselves, but in others.
Right.
And say, hey, Bobby isn't a bad guy.
Right.
Bobby's making a bad choice.
And it's the compassion. It's separating out choices from the person, both in yourself, that I may have made a bad choice, but I'm still okay. Or somebody may be making a bad choice right now, but I'm still okay. That kids don't seem to understand that if somebody is bullying them, it's not because there's something wrong with them. And if children are making bad choices at school, that doesn't mean that they are a bad person. And so by helping, my concern is that this anti-bullying movement is stigmatizing kids in the way that stranger danger stigmatized dangerous people as being strangers. And the truth is, the people that children should be most wary of
or sometimes the people you know the best.
Yeah, it's people whose name you know. That a very small percentage of the danger to our children is actually posed by people they've never seen before. And by teaching kids the stranger danger, we kind of set them up for not seeing the actual threat. And by demonizing bullies, all these kids that I'm speaking with see bullies as being this bad person that's over there. A bully is not me. A bully is, I was right on the mic, sorry at home. A bully is, I can't be a bully, my friend can't be a bully, so they don't recognize when they are bullying or when their friend is bullying.
I see the correlation I'm making to grown-ups is, like road rage. If you ever honk at somebody angrily, or somebody, flips you a finger or two in an intersection.
Or two?
I've seen it happen.
Or just getting two hands up, Ep9.
I really ticked somebody off once. The point being that it's a moment in time. It's a snapshot of, that is not necessarily a bad person. They're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Something is setting them off. Where does that behavior come from? It isn't necessarily intrinsic to who they are as a person. This is a moment in time that they're having a rough day. Have you heard that
story that the guy on the train, two kids jumping all over the place, annoying everyone around him, just making a scene. And somebody says something to him, and he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We're coming from the hospital. Their mother just passed." And so everybody on the train was so irritated at his lack of parenting, lack of boundaries, the kids acting out. And then, the end of the story, you realize that the kids just suffered a huge loss. He just suffered a huge loss. Nobody knows how to behave. And they say, be kind, always. You don't know what somebody is fighting or going through. Be kind, always. And when I talk to kids at schools, where I start is where I started with the whole thing. And that's all the way back when my oldest son was in kindergarten and he was being bullied. I use quotes because this other little kid was throwing rocks at him every day at recess. And my son would come home in tears because, what am I doing? Why doesn't Colton like me? It felt so personal. But this little boy had just lost his mom and went to live with 2 members of his church. His whole life had just been turned upside down. And he had a sensory issue. So it wasn't about my son at all.
Right.
And so helping my kid to understand that this is about him, that this other little boy, that he's going through something. And so my son was able to reach out to him. And then fast forward years later, after my first husband and I divorced, and my younger son was bullying. He was being labeled a bully. He was being physically aggressive. He was jumping on kids' backs, and he thought he was playing, but he was using his body too aggressively, and he wouldn't stop. And it was because he had inner turmoil that he didn't know how to process. He didn't know how to deal with it, and so he was just all over the place. And so when I talk to kids about that I've seen both sides of it, that my sweet little boy who was being a bully at school, and then what happened with Colton's parents. And so trying to talk to kids about that, about trying to understand why somebody may be behaving like that, but also to understand in themselves all the different things that could be going on for them. And I call it problem solving. And this is where I tell my story called Pity the Bully. So I'm also an animal advocate. Obviously I started with Cherryland Humane Society, and I am a pit bull advocate. I'm a breed advocate because there's a lot of breed-specific legislation that targets animals, ends up creating a lot more homeless animals, a whole bunch of problems that go along with it, which are a different topic for a different day. However, I bring pit bulls in because the label of pit bull has done to animals what the label bully has done to kids.
And I want you to repeat that because I think this is where there will be a segment of the population watching where they lose you. Oh,
Okay.
She likes pit bulls. I'm out.
Well, and that's exactly why I talk about pit bulls, because people have a visceral response to that term. And the reason they have that is because that term has been used to talk about vicious dogs, angry dogs, mean-looking dogs. And the truth is that pit bull has now become more of a description of features than an actual breed. A square head, short legs. There's so many different animals and so many different breeds that look like a pit bull, but generally what people say when they talk about pit bull is a mean-looking dog with a square head, which can be any number of things.
And there are so many different mixes of breeds and different things out there right now that hardly anything is an actual true anything.
That's true, but most stereotypes come from some origin, right? And of course, and every generation has their own animal that has Doberman, German Shepherd. Gosh, what was the other one? But boxers had taken their turn.
I was going to say boxer for a minute.
Right. And pit bulls came into the limelight with Michael Vick and the dogfighting rings because they're strong. But it's not just strength. The reason that they are used as fighting dogs, and I know this is a tangent, but I do want to address it. The reason they're used as fighting dogs is because they're fiercely loyal. And so if you mistreat a pit bull and they want to do anything to please you, then they become mean. Which I think is such a good metaphor for kids, because when children are mistreated, when children are hurting, not eating, or, any of the things that can make a dog mean can make a child mean. And so when talking to kids about animal behavior, and it's so much easier for them to understand, when I talk to them about a dog who's hungry, that you don't take food out of a dog's mouth. You don't wake a dog up with a start. You don't tease a dog. You don't kick a dog. When you treat dogs those ways, that what you get back is an angry dog,
angry
a
dog,
mean dog.
right.
The same is true with a kid. When a kid is hungry or tired or having trouble at home or sad or lonely, experiencing anything that puts them in turmoil, that they're going to make poor choices. And so that's when I tell my story. It's called Pity the Bully, as in bully breed dog, and bully at school. And it's about a little boy named Nick, based on my son, who, as you'll recall, was the bully at school, and he adopts a little dog named Sophie, which is my pit mix, who got me involved with pit bull advocacy to begin with. And the whole point of this story is the dog is learning how to make good choices. And Nikki is learning how to make better choices by helping his dog make better choices. So when the dog is misbehaving, the mom helps Nick understand what problem Sophie is trying to solve. And that's why I talk to the kids about problem solving. You know, if you're feeling out of sorts, if you're losing your temper, you always have three choices. You can get mad, and I make sure that kids know that that's an option. You have the choice to get mad, because if it's not your choice to get mad, it's not your choice to not get mad. So you can get mad, or you can get results. You can solve the problem yourself. Figure out what's wrong. Are you hungry? Are you feeling frustrated? Whatever it is that's going on in that situation, can you solve it yourself? And if you can't solve it yourself, the third choice is to get help. So all through the story, we talk about Sophie dealing with hunger, trying to get her ball, or all these different things. That's just illustrating, literally and figuratively, illustrating the point of solving the situation at hand.
I think it's an awesome message, and parents, anyone watching, go to Common Royalty Facebook page to get in touch. They can search Mrs. Michigan, Jessica, it'll pop up, and contact you that way. I know we're running out of time on the school year here in spring, but get on the list for the fall, or just reach out if they want to hear more.
And it doesn't have to be a school-wide assembly. I mean, that's ideal. It's great to have that kind of energy when you can fill a gymnasium. But I can do individual classroom visits. It's about 30 minutes.
A youth group at a church or whatever.
Absolutely. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Really just want to get the message in front of kids. Help them learn problem solving. Help them learn how to stop uncomfortable situations. Help teaching them what compassion is. Bring me in. And of course, it's no charge to the school.
I think before we run out of time, I want to just real quickly touch on not specifically the 100 appearances that you did last year, but why you did those and how that ties into this show, because that's a large part of the point. Is, I mean, everyone who's been around this table on this show, you volunteered with before.
Right.
Salvation Army, Cherryland, AC Paw, whomever.
Right.
And you make those appearances to try to draw more attention to those groups, to get more support for those groups. And we want to do the same for other charities and nonprofits in Northern Michigan too, and bring them in, not only bring them into this show if they want to be featured on Common Royalty, but you're offering your help and want other people to help those groups as well.
Absolutely. And what we found, we volunteer as a couple, we volunteer as a family, but what we find is that people are so giving. They give of themselves and getting no credit, getting no recognition. And so we are trying to bring them onto this show, not only to give them the pat on the back, but to share their stories so that anybody watching, because I think the biggest obstacle is I don't know how to help, you show up. You say, how can I help? Anything that's your passion, there's a way to use that passion to help. Your time, your money, sharing something on Facebook. There are 1,000,001 ways to get involved. So if you know somebody who is giving of themselves, please contact us, nominate them. If you'd like to bring me or my family or the show into your community supporting group, message us, bring us in.
We are out of time. Thank you, Mrs. Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Michigan.
That just has such a nice ring to it. Why don't I get a crown?
Later.
Perfect. Thanks for watching Common Royalty. I'm Bill Freilich.
I'm Jessica Mason-Freilich.
And we'll see you next time. Have a good day.
You want to stop at Burger King?
Yeah.